A wonderful good morning and welcome back here to my channel God's Shadow with Grixis Control. And today we're actually diving into regular modern. I haven't been playing it for almost 2 months, and yesterday played the first league with Grixis Control again in a long time. And I absolutely crushed my opponents. Went 5-0 and 10-0 in games, so didn't drop a single game there. Was a pretty nice league, and this was the list that I was playing. 22 lands without Mystic Sanctuary, and this is the main board. You can already tell that there are significant changes to what I was playing before. And of course, these adaptations or adjustments are due to the fact that I somehow need to stay alive in a very grindy meta that is fueled by still some companions even after the rules change. But mostly also contains Uru and Astrolabe decks, like just a ton of grindy mid-range decks that utilize their graveyard to a great degree as part of their resources. And therefore, I'll go over what I'm doing here. So first off, I'm using or utilizing Thought Scour, a card that I typically do not play when I want to take the very controlling role, because as a control deck you need to have the ability to find the answers that you need to a specific threat in every specific situation. With Thought Scour, of course, it's more random, but you are generating more resources if, of course, you're utilizing all different kinds of types of cards that are fueled by the graveyard, either directly by having escape costs like Croxa and Cling to Dust, or indirectly like Tasker. And in the league, I was also playing Logic Knot. I'll go over that in just a second. And of course, we also have Snapcaster Mage and Jace, although those are only slightly dependent on the graveyard. So then Cling to Dust. Cling to Dust, very important card right now. So I cut Inquisition and Thoughtseize completely. On the one hand, they are really bad against all the decks where I really would want to have them. So against Titan decks, against Tron, against all these types of decks where both an early disruption in terms of to get some setup out of their hands, or a late game disruption to get their really good threats like Korn or a Primeval Titan or whatever out of the hand. In both scenarios, these cards are really good, or used to be really good, but since all these decks are using Veil of Summer right now, Thoughtseize and Inquisitions, like playing on your own turn and running into a Veil of Summer, is just so critical, or such a pivotal point in the game that most of the time it just breaks you, and you will never be able to recover at that point. Especially if afterwards, you usually take a Teferi or whatever out of their hand, and then you're being crushed on that turn, and you're also running in a turn 3 Teferi, and at that point you just lost. So I don't want to get into these situations anymore, at least not if I can prevent it. Therefore, I cut the Inquisitions and Thoughtseizes. I will only use them against hard combo anymore. And as of the rest, Cling to Dust is just better in the meta right now, because you can isolate individual threats like Uru, or targets for Mystic Sanctuary, targets for Emery, and of course, in the long run, Cling to Dust also provides incremental amounts of value just by not only being able to grab something in the graveyard and therefore making it harder for your opponent to utilize his resources, even if you're not using Cling to Dust, but just having the mana open and threatening to use it oftentimes is enough, which is really nice. But then, of course, also just being able to draw 2 or 3 cards off of a Cling to Dust in one game is also pretty nice. Or just gain some life. Against some matchups, that's also really important. I was playing against Ponza in that league, and my opponent had this enchantment out, I can't remember its name, green-red, and whenever I play a non-creature spell, I lose a life. And he played that on turn 2 of the game, and I lost, I don't know, 10 or 15 life points to that enchantment alone. And without Cling to Dust, I would have certainly died and not survived. But Cling to Dust over the course of that match got me back like 9 or 10 life in total. And therefore, really important there. That Fatal Push, so adjusting the deck idea to the current meta required me to shift my strengths. So before, when I was very counter heavy, very controlling in what I was doing, I was good against a certain range of archetypes, right? I was pretty decent against Tron, I was decent against Amulet Titan before the Dryad of the Elysian Grove was printed, and I was good against other control decks. Now I had to shift that balance a little bit. Now I'm better against tribal decks. Of course, I would beat tribal decks beforehand as well, and of course, I still can beat control decks, etc. But my strength now is more shifted to these tribal strategies, to aggressive decks, to decks that are generating a lot of value, like mid-range decks, etc. Ponza, and having a little bit more removal here just helps against these types of decks, of course. And then Jay's still in here. Jay's just such a crucial card. I was actually testing what's it called? The enchantment for 2 mana. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. Search for Scanta, alright. It's still early in the morning, I'm sorry for that. So Search for Scanta, I was actually testing as a 2-off. In my testing for Project Modern. But most of the time I just milled it over with Thought Scour and couldn't utilize it whatsoever. There was, like, I would need to play 3 copies in order for I have it down on turn 2 on a regular basis. But I'm not that type of control deck. Like, I can't afford having 2 to 3 dead cards over the course of the game, or just milling over my crucial cards. You know, it just, the upside, the volatility, the upside and downside risk of those plays are just too high to warrant them being played in here. And Jace, on the other hand, even if I don't get him down on turn 2, it's still a good card because it just makes my hand better. If it survives a turn, it can't block. It just does something, even if I don't gain real value in terms of casting something from the graveyard out of him. And I can, of course, also return with Kolaghan's Command. Then Drown Loch is taking the spot here of Logic Knot. So even with Thought Scour and all the shenanigans that I have going on here, I realize that I'm utilizing my graveyard a little bit too much to really have my other graveyard dependent cards be as effective as they were before. And it wasn't by much, like the margin was pretty slim, but I recognized that there was a potential weakness for my deck, and that I probably had to adjust or address this problem, and therefore I now try to go with Drown Loch. I could also imagine going against Kroxa here, just cutting Kroxa and going with a Logic Knot, and I might actually do that for this league. I'm not yet entirely sure, but I wanted to go over the deck as it was before, and therefore Kroxa is in here still, also because Kroxa is overall a pretty cool card. Alright, so then Kroxa, of course, with Thought Scour, milling over Cling to Dust and Kroxa, in addition to all the cards that Snapcaster Mage and Jace can hit, plus Kolaghan's Command. There's just such a wide variety of cards that generate value out of my graveyard that Thought Scour really adds consistency now, whereas before in the other builds it did not. But we've reached a point where I sourced so many of these cards out of the graveyard um, that it makes sense to run Thought Scour over cards like Opt. And that, of course, makes me more susceptible to graveyard hate. Right now, so I've seen the last Modern challenges, which were absolutely dominated and run over by Dredge. So I think there were like 4 to 5 copies last weekend. So by the time, no, you're probably going to watch this video on Sunday, the 21st. So that will still be last weekend. Yeah. But so I have to take care of that, and that's another reason why I might be able to cut Croxa after all and go with Logic Knot or another counterspell here instead. Because the deck felt absolutely great, as I said, like it crushed my last league. But I'm always trying to add more balance and improve the deck, and yeah, it's definitely a weak point, as is right now. In Terminate, we know about Terminate. Then I cut, sadly, with a bleeding heart, I cut my Nimble Obstructionist due to the fact that there are currently no decks where I really can get them, so to speak. Nimble Obstructionist was good against blue-white control decks or control decks in general and a lot of combo decks like Storm. But these types of decks are just not represented in the meta right now. So the only cards or the only archetypes that Nimble Obstructionist is really good at would be Tron. And I don't want to be running a card that is just good against one matchup. So I cut the Nimble and just added a lot more value here to the roster. So Brazen Borrower was a part of the deck beforehand as well, but here a real one-to-one replacement for the Nimble Obstructionist, as it is still a threat, but also gives me some utility beforehand. And then we do have Bone Crusher Giant, very similar to the Brazen Borrower, in that it adds value by just being able to be cast twice, and also is a good threat. Cryptic Command, a card that, as long as I can justify playing it, I won't cut it. Of course, Cryptic Command is great with Mystic Sanctuary, but I'm such mid-rangey in how I approach the game right now that I don't think I need Mystic Sanctuary. And Sanctuary would also be in place of Cascade Bluffs or as a 23rd card. So that could also be like cutting a Croxa, adding a Mystic Sanctuary would be totally fine. And then Tasker, a card that I haven't touched in quite some time, but I think is actually good now again. Because the metagame has slowed down to a certain degree, has become so slow and grindy that Tasker does everything that I want him to do. Like, it comes down as a 1-mana spell most of the time. Could even come down on turn 2 as a 1-mana spell. And against many control decks, this means that they cannot counter the Tasker. Like, most of the time they have Force of Negation or whatever. You know, these types of cards that I'm getting around by playing so many creatures here, as my threats are no Planeswalkers. And Tasker, when it is on the battlefield, Fatal Push doesn't do anything against it. So the only card that really handles Tasker is a Path to Exile, and even if they path my Tasker, that's a good trade for me. So totally fine with that in the early game, and then in the late game, as soon as I'm able to generate value out of my graveyard through Tasker, the card's just amazing. Like a 4/5 beater on. I hope that I'm still recording. Yeah. Tasker also makes the rest of my deck better, right? It's basically the ability also is a Thought Scour with, you know, the draw card is basically the same ability as bringing back a card from the graveyard. So it can still mill over like Troxas and Cling to Dust and whatever. and therefore it just makes it harder for my opponent to select individual resources to get me back. And yeah, overall, pretty happy with it, especially because Tasker is also good against decks that run like Thought Nausea, Batter Skull, huge, um, like all these 4/4 creatures that we would typically have problems with because of Lightning Bolt, but Tasker is just great at dealing with them, or just roadblocking them. Now the sideboard is a little bit different as well, has some special spice here. So on the 3 mana spot here, all the typical Fulminator Mage, Plague Engineer. As I said, my focus shifted a little bit from big mana. I'm really, like with this build, it's really not super great against big mana anymore. Um, Therefore, I omitted committing significant resources in the sideboard on big mana and just went with 2 Fulminator Mages here against Tron. And of course, with potential applications against Titan decks. But for the most part, Fulminator Mage is just there to be a little bit of disruption while I'm putting a lot of pressure onto the battlefield. We have a little bit of counter magic against control decks. I could also be playing Mystical Dispute, but right now there are just a lot of cards that like drop on 2 mana, like Stoneforge Mystic, etc. And I think that Spellsnare in that scenario is just better than Mystical Dispute. So went with this option here, Thoughtseize, as I already said before, against combo decks, as well as Collective Brutality. Also with Collective Brutality, Cling to Dust, and Kalitas, we actually have a decent matchup against, and Spellsnare of course as well. We actually have a decent matchup against Burn right now. Kalitas adds additional value if I need it. Mostly comes in whenever Kruxa is not good. So that's a 1-to-1 exchange for the most part. And then we come to Massacre Worm. So I typically don't play 6 mana sideboard cards in my Grixis control list, but Massacre Worm gives me something that the deck otherwise wouldn't have access to, and that is an absolute phenomenal out against Titan decks. Everything that is running Field of Ruin and adds like, I don't know, 6 to 10 creatures to the battlefield in a single turn. And yeah, when it comes down, it's most likely always going to be lethal. And therefore, I think it's just an amazing card to have access to as one-off in the sideboard, because I mostly can't stay alive for 10 to 15 turns. So it's very likely for me to hit the Massacre Worm, especially with Thought Scour in the mix, and then recur with Kolaghan's Command or, just draw it directly. But yeah, as soon as I have access to it, my opponent probably won't see it coming on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is just lethal coming down. So yeah, pretty good option there as well. Just wanted to showcase that. We were also probably the first deck that was wanting Jigsaw Jailer in the sideboard, and then both the Death Shadow lists as well as other control decks adopted that. And potentially we can also do the same with Massacre Worm here. So that's it for the deck tech today. Let's jump into League. Alright, welcome to round number 1, and this is an absolutely atrocious hand. We're gonna mulligan into a slightly better one. And here you can already see, before I started the game, I actually changed Kroxa into Logic Knot, as I said before. I'm gonna keep this and probably pitch the Cryptic Command here. And I assume that we're... Oh my goodness, a Delva deck. A Delva deck, crazy shit. Alright. We do pack a lot of removal spells, so we should be able to find one quite soon, I hope. And then the only question is if we're playing against like a Timor Delver list that is also packing like Tarmogoyfs and such. No, that's not the case. Alright, so I should be very cautious here with my life total, but I need the red and I also need to utilize my Thought Scour. Alright, Brazen Borer is not too bad, as it can act as a pseudo removal to a certain degree. Alright, that's slightly better, I think. So I could go after the Soul Scum Mage right now. I think that's the best because I can, even if he flips the Delver, I can still kill it with Kolaghan's Command or bounce it with Brazen Borer. The Soul Scum Mage is a little bit more complicated to deal with. And he has to flip it first as well. Without a setup here. Oh well. Mutagenic growth. Alright. So it's possible that we're taking a lot of damage here. Alright, only 3. And no other threat. There's Drone Loch in our bin, which is also pretty decent. Bone Crusher Giant. Good as well. So I don't know if my opponent's playing counter magic. I assume that he does. I think I'm going to take 3 more if he just goes with a 3 here. And try to bounce the Delver by the end turn. Sleight of hand. Alright, so now I think with a sleight of hand on the stack, I'm gonna go with... No, it doesn't make sense. I cannot go with Bone Crusher Giant and I can also not go with Kolaghan's Command because of mutagenic growth. It's actually good that we know about that one. I think the downside risk here is too high for me. Like, without knowing that a Cryptic Command's on top, I feel like I need to wait. And now I'm going to go ahead and start acting. Because if he has a counter spell, I'm almost sure that he can't counter both of my spells here. But if he did play Spell Pierce or whatever, counters my Brazen Borer, and afterwards I can't get rid of the Delver anymore. So now I could, in theory, go with the Bone Crusher Giant. Could have, of course, also countered the Delver there with a Lodging Knot, but I wanted to wait if there's another threat. Alright, so see, there's the Spell Pierce. So actually what I did was absolutely correct. Do I want to force him to do it here? Yeah, I'm just going to go with the Drawn Loch. He needs to have another Spell Pierce in order for things to work. We have to be careful. Our opponent's definitely also playing Burn. Has another Spell Pierce here. Or a Spell Snare. Also possible. Has something. Oh, Lightning Strike. Alright. Alright. So, but we know one card is a Mutagen Growth in his hand, which currently is pretty dead. And we do have a little bit of counter magic at least. So I cannot shock anymore. I really have to be somewhat careful here. But he's also down to 14. So I'm countering a Lightning Bolt because I know that he's playing Wizard's Lightning as well. And the Wizard's Lightning specifically, so I don't need more than 5 right now. I can play the Creeping Torpid, protect my Brazen Borer, put him down to 10 here. Play Brazen Borer, have 8 damage on the battlefield next turn. To 3 and 3 mana open, but not a second black source, which is a little problematic. So I could have lethal here, but I think 5/8. So if he fetches for the Wooded Foothills, I would still have lethal, right? Yeah. So I'm just gonna play the mountain attack. This is 5. He needs to have double bolt, and I was tapped out. So return and 2 damage. He needs to have double bolt or burst lightning bolt. And a counterspell. Alright. Pretty close game 1 there. Don't even like Collective Brutality is certainly good here. I don't even know if Spell Snare is good. Fatal is good, Cling to Dust is very good in this matchup. I like Bone Crusher, I like Brazen Borer. Jace might be too slow, especially on the draw. Do think that I want to have Plague Engineer as well. So I'm going to cut this. I've only seen 1 mana spells, right? Mutagenic Growth, that's a very, very aggressive list. I think I'm going to go with Counter Squall here. Instead, cut the Jace. And probably also cut Cryptics entirely. And instead go with... I could of course go with Massacre Worm, but that doesn't seem feasible. Yeah, part of me wants to go with Spell Snare here. I just assume that he's also playing something like Pyromancer. Of course, if that's not the case, like if he's not playing a single... yeah, we need to mulligan this. This is a rough keep. So if we were to draw land and wouldn't have to kill something on turn 1, then I could have a turn 2 Tasker, which he probably can get rid of. But I also need blue and I need red for my removal spells. This is a rough one. Tasker would be the natural pick here to get rid of, but the upside risk or the upside gain is so high because he won't be able to get rid of it, I'm pretty sure, and he probably also won't be able to counter it. So I'm just gonna go with a Drown Law here. Alright, that at least gives us a little bit of time. Yep. So I assume that my opponent's playing this weird fairy. Okay. Is it just me or is that weird? So now next turn I have Tasker up. Since he's playing Wizard's Lightning, it's possible that my opponent's completely on Wizards. And if that's the case, then I probably have to fetch right now, because then he might be playing Nimbles as well. But do I want to fetch Shock? I think there's almost nothing. Yeah, let's fetch Shock. Alright, there's the Delver. So even if he counters this, we still have a good next turn, because he's not going to use the... Alright, fair enough. Alright, our opponent is playing a very, very interesting list. I mean, I have been out of the loop a little bit from actual Modern and played a lot of... Project Modern recently, but this is still seems weird. Still seems weird to a certain degree. So have a lot of plays here actually. I don't know if I want to get rid of my lightning bolts from the graveyard though. Because then Snapcaster Mage is pretty bad. So, well, shit. He does have the Torment Script, of course. So yeah, we're gonna do this. As intended in the beginning. Torment Script is so inconceivable on that part of the game that sometimes one forgets about it, but yeah, and for these kinds of situations, Tasker is just really, really good. I mean, he probably has some pump spells for that supposed to start a sprite, but Averaging 4 damage turn here is definitely pretty high. Alright, so I'm gonna go and try to double So this can only return instants and sorceries, right? Yeah. It's still problematic to a certain degree, but I think minus and life. And if he does something in response, then I can still go with Brazen Borrower. Because I think buying myself a turn here is actually enough. Potentially. Alright. Because now we are actually the aggressor with 2 more threats in the background here. And one can really see what the upside is on these 2 cards, especially in the new deck iteration or combination here. And of course he has to play whatever he has in hand beforehand, and has to somewhat kill me instantaneously. And he cannot really attack because otherwise my Tasker, like if I block, my Tasker and Creeping Torpid will be lethal next turn. Sleight of hand, good start for us, despite Red Arcanist. Because if he returns the sleight of hand, then we're probably not gonna die. Yeah, I'm interested to see this. He needs to deal 15 damage here, straight up. And if he attacks, it's kind of ludicrous. Yeah. So he needs a removal plus a blocker. Lol, Vapor Snag. Shit. Alright. Vapor Snag, alright. Now you probably want to, if I was, yeah, I was just gonna say, you probably want to use that Torment Script right now. Alright, so let's see if you can counter this. Nope. And you still need a removal spell for my Creeping Torpid as well. Alright, down to 1. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm not gonna attack here Well, actually, should I? He would have to draw 4. He doesn't even have 4 red sources, so yeah. Not in the world should this be lethal. And now I have 3 lethal threats on the board, and that should be good enough. Cannot imagine that you can stop this. But, GG's. Welcome back to round number 2. Off to a good start here, and this is actually not a good hand again. Slightly better. Keep and ditch a blue delta. Then we're gonna go with a Scalding Tarn here, because that would allow me to also fetch a basic swamp if need be, and that is always preferable to having to fetch for a basic mountain depending on the matchup. And Astrolabe. Already hate it. So at this point I want to say that Astrolabe has already been banned in Project Modern. Just FYI. Yeah, so could of course be any number of decks. I assume that it's not just blue-white here. Fail push and terminate. So I'm not sure if I want to go after the Outcomes Astrolabe here. I could do it just in order to actually get info on what our opponent is actually doing. Mana League, alright. So still a little awkward here. Not really sure what we're playing against. Could be Blue-White Stoneblade, but I don't think that's the case. Yeah, it's Bunt, alright. There should not be. Should there? Oh. Alright, Tesker is pretty good, but it will not allow me to have Drawn Loch or Terminate up. On the other hand, though, I could activate Tesker if need be. So what else is there that I need to be concerned about? There might be 5. So I leave. If I get rid of the Arkham Astrolabe, then Uro is going to be pretty difficult for my opponent to play. Yeah, I'm gonna wait here. No, maybe not. Alright, good that I waited. Because that would be most horrible. Most horrible indeed. Alright, so we're gonna do a counter spell here. In And then we're gonna go with a Snapcaster Mage. Apparently he doesn't have another land. So I'm gonna shock this, play this. Cryptic is not bad. And then I'm gonna play this dude. 1, 2. I mean, most of the cards in our graveyard are actually pretty good. Of course, there is the case that I probably don't want to have. Let's see. This is fine. This is fine. So Thought Scour is fine because it allows me to mill over Cling to Dust. So I think I'm gonna get rid of this fail push. Alright. This and I think that the rest is okay. Another path? No. Verdict. Alright. So I could have, of course, countered the Euro here, but I don't really see a reason for that. I hope to mill over a Cling to Dust now, so that I can actually get rid of. There we go. The Euro here. And I think I'm just going to Cling to Dust again. Because I have the mana right now and there's almost no downside risk here. So I'm not going to go with a Creeping Torpid just yet. My opponent's probably going to play Field of Ruin. Mana League. I don't even know if that's relevant for me. Yeah, have the Mana League on top. That's fine. Like, we're already like so far in terms of mana development. That Mana League, of course, could become relevant at some point, but might just not be. And I'm gonna do it again. 1, 2. I need to be a little bit careful, like I can't get rid of too many of these cards. 3, 4. Drown a Loch is still also a removal spell, so that's fine, I guess. And then Cryptic Commands. Alright. And now this is the situation I mean. Even if my opponent were to draw in Uro or something again, then just having Cling to Dust in my graveyard already gives me a lot of options and incremental value just by my opponent not being able to do anything about it. Second Cling to Dust, though, is not as good, of course. So since I know about the mana leak, I'm not going to go with the Kolaghan's command here. What the fuck? What the fuck? Shark Typhoon? Lol. Okay, that is a problem. What the fuck? Um... I guess we need to go real hard now. I'm gonna go and bold here. Right. Shark creature token with flying. What the absolute fuck is going on here? So worst case scenario is probably my opponent. Feudal Ruin certainly also is not a bad draw here. So it's still got to do it. We need to go under it. There's no other way. We don't have any more basics, therefore. So I know the last card in hand is a mana leak. I need to see if I have. And there's a Steam Vents. I don't have any more fetchable targets here. Fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. Alright. Let's have this resolve first. Then go with a terminate on that thing. If he wants to counter this, which I hoped he would, then I can actually bone crush him. Alright. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Bone Crusher here. Let's see. No, I don't need Bone Crusher. I'm gonna wait for his turn, and then I'm gonna go with a combination of my snaps and bolts and K commands. So return and deal 2 damage. No way. Fucking has a force negation in hand. That's quite insane as well. Okay. So now, what is the thing here? I need to let him draw. I can still take a little bit of damage. So I think I'm gonna let him draw. I need to wait for the possibility that... Oh, lol, they are flying as well. Shit. Alright, so I'm just gonna go... Alright. This means we have him. So opponent's just taking time off the clock here. But that thing, dude, I did not expect that. What the fuck? Alright, so Fatal Push is going out. I actually don't know. Like, I want to bring in Massacre Worm, actually. To a certain degree. Definitely want to have this. Thoughtseize, generally speaking, would be good. But he's probably bringing Battle Summer as well, therefore can't really have it. So probably also Fatal Push over Terminate for the same reason. Just to be more mana efficient there. He has to be playing a certain amount of removal spells though to get rid of all of our creatures, because we do have quite a few. I want to take out Cryptic Command and just bring in Kalitas. That will weaken me overall and will make it more difficult for me to break up shenanigans with Mystic Sanctuary, but I think I need to go below my opponent here. Especially with this weird Sharknado, Typhoon, whatever. And I also need to play faster. Like, I'm already down to 13 minutes. I mean, it's way more complicated as well for us to respond to what my opponent's doing. And we were all mulligan, so that's actually pretty good that we won that game 1. Okay, land is what I wanted to see here. So that's not bad. And we're gonna try to shoot the Bone Crusher Giant as fast as possible and get in there. Not the Thought Scour. Hello? And the only good thing about having to deal with the fairy in this format is, well, it's not good as from a format perspective, but with Bone Crusher Giant and sure. So I'm gonna do it now so that it doesn't get countered. Oh shit. Fuck. Alright. That wasn't great. Should have been a red source, of course. So the thing is, if I don't do anything and he has a 5th land plus something to put into his graveyard, then it just could be running into an issue here. Another Uro. Alright. Let's play the Snapcaster Mage in the hopes that there is no counterspell just yet. Target this, let the Uro resolve. Yeah, it's gonna be... I had 6 minutes probably. If I'm not winning by that time, I probably have to go and go for game 3. Just because there's so much life already in my opponent's everything, graveyard, everything. None of this is really great. So he needs 2 more cards in the graveyard to be able to do something. I'm still hesitant on jumping in with my Bone Crusher Giant here though. I really want to mill over one of my Crumble to Dust though, or draw one, and not Crumble to Dust. You know what I mean. Tasker and Kalitas in the bin there. Let's just go with this. Might be countered. It's not though. Alright. Yeah, I'm going Bolt Steep here just to increase the speed on which I can determine the outcome here. So can't really do anything about this. Although of course I would like to. But I need to have 5 mana up to have draws 2 cards. Okay. to counter a Uro and have backup copies like of protection. Or so. Unless he has Veil of Summer plus something else. Like a mystical whatever. Mystical dispute or whatever. Something like that. Alright. So now the question becomes... Yeah, I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna return Tasker. It's probably gonna be countered. No? Okay. Very interesting. Shit. One, two, three, four. Five. Alright, so Archmage Shaman's hand, and potentially something bigger as well. Fuck. But we can follow up with the second Tasker here as well, so might be alright. It's possible that my opponent follows up with a Jace here. Definitely some sort of follow up here. This is interesting, like keeping Supreme Buried in, definitely something that... Yeah, now it's becoming problematic. So if I can't get rid of the Jace this turn, I'll probably have to concede here. Despite not actually falling behind too far, but I need the... Alright, cool. So if he commits more... then you at least won't be able to bring back the euro. Which might be a problem now. But if we draw a fail push or something, then we could really profit. Oh no. Oh fuck. That's too close to just concede. Or is probably going to come down now. Or Shark Typhoon. Lol, big Teferi. Alright, so I think I'm going to change my tactic here. Like, I did not expect him to also play big Teferi and such. So this is gonna go out again. This coming in again. I probably can't play the fail push because I need to be able to get rid of the euro. Bone Crusher Giant at that point also isn't great. I have to be a little bit leaner in what I'm doing. And Spellsnare also actually isn't super great. He's playing like one or two mana spells and the rest is just big stuff. So I would say if we're running into Veil of Summer, we cannot really prevent it. But with 7 minutes on the clock, and if I'm playing fast, I might be able to pull it off. It's going to be tough though. It definitely is going to be tough, because if I overextend on... So this is at least a turn 2 Tasker. Let's see if he does have Path. Yeah, it does have a Path. At the ready here. Which is, of course, unfortunate. I'm not gonna lie about it. If we had Tasker on the battlefield for a couple of turns, like even 2, that would have been probably good enough to finish the game real quick with lightning bolts. So I'm just gonna bold him here in order to prevent, like if I go with the Cascade Bluffs, he knows that there is a follow-up play. So I'm not gonna do it too obviously. Now I gotta do this. Otherwise my mana would have been screwed there. Right, now he's gonna mana leak, alright. No. But this is okay. Shit. Problem is that winning the late game is really tough, and Uro just makes everything else really tough, like racing and such. And here I really gotta say, like, Outcome's Astrolabe is what keeps this all together. Otherwise, like Field of Ruin and such would have a real opportunity cost to play. That's what makes Astrolabe so egregious and is the reason why we banned it in Project Mod. And also the reason why I think that it's not good. What did you bring back though? So I was actually almost certain that he did not play Ice Fang Waddle here. I think if his protection is a mana leak, then we might be able to get rid of the Teferi. Dude, why are we drawing so much fucking land? Fuck. And the problem, of course, after that is that we just can't handle the Uro. Just cannot handle it. And that's really the issue here, is that there's so much egregious stuff going on. In his deck, that I don't think it should remain as is in the format. Like, many people have a problem with Uro itself. I don't have a problem with it because I think the cost of Uro to be replayed is actually quite steep. Like, having double blue and double green without Archon's Astrolabe is actually not as easy. And therefore, yeah, as I said, like, I don't really have a problem with the card itself. I have a problem with Archon's Astrolabe, I have a problem with Veil of Summer. I think those are the two cards that are actually problematic in the format. Teferi is also mildly problematic, but more from a gameplay perspective than anything else. So, yeah, I gotta try, I think. Oh, maybe not. Just gonna wait. So I'm not playing my last card here because I want him to think that I actually have a counterspell for the Uro. And there's Veil of Summer. So now I know that he actually has a Veil of Summer in hand as well. There we go. Yeah. And not, like, even if I had a counterspell here, like, I wouldn't be able to counter the Veil of Summer. And that's just what makes this so insane. Because otherwise, you know, without the Occam's Astrolabe, I wouldn't have to worry about it because he wouldn't have a third green source. So if I go 1, 2, 3, I still have 1, 2, okay. Yeah, if I'm running into a forced negation or a some, I can't help it. There's not enough time for me to make other plays here. Like, without the Field of Ruin coming down here, I could have forced him into using Veil of Summer with the Archon's Ash. Oh my goodness. Fuck! Now I even talked about something else. So, obviously I didn't want to do this. I wanted to go with Cryptic and just lost track of my thought there. Because I was thinking about Kolaghan's command and then instinctively went with that. Alright, yeah. So I guess we're just gonna block. I mean, we're gonna play it out now. Doesn't really matter. But at this point, we basically have lost. Like, there's no way we're coming back here. And the main reason for that being the case is that we did not manage to draw a single Cling to Dust in both games. 2 and 3. If that was to be the case, like if we had drawn one of them, we probably would have gotten out of this. But yeah, not this way. And in 2 minutes, like, there's no way I'm coming back from this. Right. Like, our opponent certainly isn't a bad player. That's definitely to be said, but without Akram's Astrolabe, like, we would have fucked him so hard. But anyhow, GG's. Now let's have a look if he did have a Veil of Summer. Indeed. Alright, that's it for round number 2. Let's head off to round number 3. Alright, welcome to round number 3. And our opponent sounds similar to the last opponent. Let's have a look here. Alright, not the same. Let's keep... we're keeping on the backs of Cling to Dust and Thought Scour here. I do have 2 cantrips, which hopefully will help. I think I'm going to Thought Scour my opponent if he doesn't indicate that. That would actually help him. But it makes Drowning a lot better, and I don't want to mill over my own lands in this situation. Therefore, I mean, Flooded Strand could of course mean that we're playing against Uro again. But if that were to be the case, then the Cling to Dust at least comes in handy, so we shall see. Shit. Oh, damn it. Oh, fucking damn it. Yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of Uro as long as I can. So we're playing the same matchup again, which is fucking annoying. But anyhow. I definitely need to play faster this time around. So this indicates that there is a Ice Fang Wall coming. Which which I cannot counter because Drown Loch with Cascade Bluffs is actually not online yet. We shall see. Like next month in July, start of July, Throne of Eldraine and Core 20 are going to drop in Project Mod. And we shall see. Like Akram's Astrolabe is already banned, therefore we shall see what that actually does to the meta. If people are still going to be playing banned, and I mean the core of the deck is still super strong, and therefore I expect people to do that, even without having access to Astrolabe. But I expect also that the deck is going to be way more beatable than it is right now, and of course that is speaking from the perspective of decks that are trying to fight on a fair axis, like not only us with Grixis control, but also Death Shadow, Big X decks in general, like mid-range, all these decks that have severe problems with the amount of value that ban is generating at basically no downside. Alright, so this helps me a little bit. So this has to be blue, otherwise I can't generate more mana. So I'm just going to play the Snapcaster Mage, target Thought Scour. I could of course also go with Cling to Dust, but I want to maintain it in my graveyard and hopefully find something with Thought Scour. Like really desperately looking for lands here. And these types of situations, like if I only had a Thought Scour in hand, I probably wouldn't have kept the hand. But in combination with Cling to Dust and a potential second draw, if not for that Ura there, I think it's reasonable to keep. Alright. At least something. Now, we can also return our Tasker in order to have a real threat on the battlefield. Yeah, by now, like, I don't think Cling to Dust in general would make the cut if not for the meta being so dependent on individual cards coming back from the graveyard. We are recording, all good. After this game I need to take a break. All of these are very long, very exhausting games. I don't mind the Sword of Fire, Feast and Famine. I'm not going to counter that as long as I have other options. I strongly assume that my opponent does have Mana Leak up here. Interesting. Interesting. So obviously I could go with Tasker here, but that again, like due to losing the other Water Grave there, I actually, yeah. hoped to blank something here that he was expecting to counter my Tasker or whatever. And now he is under the pressure to put something on the battlefield. And I can move things without having a whole lot of downside risk here. Down to 9. Cling to Dust, not bad. Cryptic Command up, also not bad. And we already have Lethal in hand. So as soon as he moves, makes any kind of move really, I'm going to go and fire my Lightning Bolt and my Kolaghan's Command. I mean, my opponent has to have some sort of counterspell in hand. I strongly expect that so let's see, I think we're just going to get rid of that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't really need any of that. And now there is an incentive, a certain amount of incentive here to counter the Cling to Dust, although I don't think that he's going to do it. Alright. Let's see what he's going to grab. He's, yeah, oh well, there's only that option, of course. So I think I'm actually going to let that room. Maybe not. So the reason I'm playing this so awkwardly is to play around a Force of Negation here. Discards a path. Alright. Alright, so this build is actually dependent on Stoneforge Mystic to a certain degree. Therefore, things change a little bit for us. The core is, of course, still the same. And here, Tasker is really, really good, just because it can block better skulls. So Bone Crusher Giant is alright. It's not great, but it's alright. I think I want to have Spell Snare. I want to have Counter Scroll. Don't want to have Terminate. That's all good. This is alright for the most part. Bone Crusher Giant. I don't think I want to have. I'm not 100% certain on this. Maybe I just want to get rid of 2 of these. Fuck. So this time around, at least we have more than enough time to finish all 3 games. So don't have to stress through. Because last game, or last match, we at least had the chance to still win game 2. And I just dropped that one. in favor of. So I don't want to get rid of the cryptic command. I also don't want to get rid of the creeping torpid. And I cannot get rid of the Bone Crusher Giant due to Stonefletch Mystic. So I think that I actually have to get rid of Cryptic here. Looks a little bit weird, but Thought Scour just enables so much and mills over. Cling to Dust, which is just the most important card in this matchup. Because my opponent will hardly be able to play Uru for 7. So now the 1-2 punch here is very difficult to evade, where he goes end of turn. Where he goes end of turn, Ice Fang Wall, and then follows up with a Teferi. And then at that point, most of our deck is just dead. So that's something that we have to look out for. And that's basically the best combination that that can have. Astrolabe into Ice Fang Wall into a Teferi. Close to unbeatable for most decks, because it covers so many bases. Makes his mana perfect, does have a Death Touch blocker that provides value, and in addition, it shuts down many decks with a Teferi, and you have a blocker to protect it, so just absolutely bonkers. So right now, I could also choose to go with a Torpid here due to a Teferi coming down. But I think Snapcaster Mage Thought Scour is the player that I want to make, even if he is going to play a Teferi with like a Veil of Summer or something backup. But this looks like it could potentially be an Armage Charm. Mystical Dispute. That's the only card that he can have, or Dispel. Because nothing else counters my spells are here. I'm not gonna instantly counter it, because the Ice Fang Wall itself is not as problematic on the battlefield. I want to have the option of bouncing something if necessary. Something's coming. Interesting. So with him not doing anything, I'm just going to go with a Bone Crusher Giant here. Because next turn I will have Snapcaster Mage Spell Snare up again. And this way I'm at least not down a card. So, yeah. So I strongly expect him to use the Field of Ruin there. Therefore, I'm not going to do anything here. And if he's going to go with the Field of Ruin, I'm going to play the Brazen Borer. Because I'm still going to have Drawn Lockup. And of course this way I did protect my Creeping Torpid as well. So it's probably going to get countered here. Yeah. But by Mana Leak, so that's still fine. And he doesn't have too many options with the Teferi now. Bouncing my Brazen Borer, I mean, he could do that. Okay. Teferi is too important to not deal with it here while I can. Otherwise I would have just played the Bone Crusher Giant, which would have also been a good or a decent option at least. Good thing is he doesn't have, I was gonna say he doesn't have 2 green mana yet, therefore he can't play the Uro, but that just changed. Another Field of Ruin. This is really one of the core issues here of the deck. I think I'm just gonna try to. Am I gonna try to force the Bone Crusher Giant here? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. No, just gonna wait. Yeah, he knows about my Brazen Borer and therefore might choose to not let his dog guard down. Dispute. Has to take the dispute. That's not good. Dispute is so vastly superior here. Alright, let's just try to get our Brazen Borer down here. Not the Mana Leak, interesting. So since I know that a Mana Leak is coming off on top as well, I'm just gonna go with this Jace here. What could he have in hand though? I'm still not gonna go with the Bone Crusher Giant here. Ooh. Shit. Alright, so he's indeed not drawing the card that he just had on top. And the only card that I can counter here... Oh. So I think, what's more important here? Let's see what he does. If he does have a removal spell or potentially a cryptic command here. None of that. Sadly, we don't have another counterspell in the bin. And I think I'm also going to go with the Bone Crusher Giant here. Draws a card. Could have also bounced it though. So would have loved to have some black swords here, of course. Maybe it was a little bit too aggressive to go with a basic island there over another basic swamp. But we don't have double black in our deck right now. So if he drew Uru and this green source here, then of course we're pretty fucked. Then we have a real big deal problem. And it almost looks like it. Like that would be the case. No, Astrolabe, another one, trying to find Uru. Alright. Let's just wait first. Okay. Since we do have the appropriate removal spells as well, I'm just gonna go with a spell snare here. Then potentially kill it, and then follow up with K commands, if that just isn't enough. Lovely. Just fucking lovely. I hate this card so much. This card is so fucking egregious. Fucking shithole of a motherfucker. Also, it just makes no sense for them to print this. Like, there was also, I mean, there was Autumn's Veil already. There was just no need to print this. Nah, he's already. Lol. Phew. Alright. Let's kill that one then. Alright, so him playing the breeding pool here now, I know that. Alright, so he elects to not play. That's interesting. So I'm definitely going to go with this. I almost expect that my opponent does have a counterspell there. How can we best play this? So I would have lethal here as well, but I need to be playing around a counter spell. Also, this turn or this next turn, I'm probably not gonna die just yet. Destroy. Now I have to play around another Veil of Summer as well, so I'm gonna be returning and killing the Stoneforge Mystic. Or returning the Tasker. Or just returning a Snapcaster Mage, because that will be lethal. Yeah. Alright, so this is pretty much what I expected to happen. Exactly in this fashion. And therefore, I mean, what's the chance of me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I go it's possible that Brazen Boar is actually the better card here, because he cannot protect against that. And that will also play around a mana leak. So at that point, the only card that really protects him from the Brazen Boar would be a Cryptic command, but he won't be able to play the Cryptic. I mean, he does have the mana, but then he wouldn't be able to also play the sword. Well, we shall see. Alright, definitely has something. But now I think... Actually, I think it's better for me to attack here. Declare attackers, now do it, because otherwise if he did draw a Cryptic, he could still go counter tap, and then I would be able to oh, perfect. Yeah, this is just really well played by me. If I had played differently here, I would have lost it. Like with any other combination, like getting the Snapcaster Mage back, or not attacking first, I just would have lost the game here. Not GG's. So we definitely have a little bit better game plan, gameplay percentage against Stoneforge decks than without the Stoneforge, but we also have hit our Cling to Dust in the first game, and that saved us from the Uro, and we just haven't seen it in games 2 and 3 in the other match, so that's the thing here. Alright, off to a 2-0 start, 2-1 start, which isn't bad, especially against two banned decks here, but it's also not super good. These two also being the first losses that I picked up in the last, I don't know how many games. But yeah, that's it for round number 3, and heading off to round number 4. Alright, welcome back to round number 3. Our hand is not super great. But it potentially is still a keep here. We have a pretty decent mana base, plus a Creeping Torpid, and we're on the draw. So any Thought Scour would probably really enable our Snapcaster Mages. And yeah, better to have one land more than... let's see. So this is definitely not a good matchup for us. I don't think it's gonna be a regular Tron, but more likely Eldrazi Tron. But here comes the Thought Scour, so that is already something that is good for us. Natural Tron. Fucking Eldrazi, man. Alright, Brazen Borrower is also not super bad. So... Do you have natural Tron, friend? Of course you do. Why wouldn't you, right? Why the fuck wouldn't you? So we do have quite a bit of removal in general. Also removal that can, in theory, deal with the Reality Smasher. Both Terminate and Drown Lock, of course, can do it. The only problem being that by the time we're basically 1-4-3ing ourselves, and of course Drown Lock will also require our opponent to have a certain amount of cards in his graveyard. Oh, great. Yeah, I think I'm just going to concede here. I don't want to reveal too much information. And with this kind of start, it's almost impossible for us to get back. Brazen Borrower actually not super great here. Cling to Dust just bad. Massacre Worm could potentially do something. Walking Ballistas. Matter Reshapers, all these types of cards. Anyhow, Tasker is really good at blocking everything up to a Reality Smasher. And hand's decent. And that's a really fucked up thing with Eldrazi, is that most games they start off with either having the broken temple draw or the broken Ulza draw. Now let's be honest. I can just say fuck you. Fuck you, motherfucker. So I assume that he's gonna take the cryptic commands. For me it's important to have the terminate in the bin, but we also need to somehow get more cards into his graveyard. So if he takes the cryptic, I'm just gonna play the Bone Crusher Giant. Interesting. No play here. So that probably means that either he has a removal spell here in a dismember, or he's going with current TCG. The Great Creator. Alright, and this is gonna be a Walking Ballista, okay. So I'm gonna kill the Walking Ballista with my Loch to keep my Lightning Bolts up here, since it cannot kill my Bone Crusher Giant anyway. And if my opponent wants to go after my Bone Crusher Giant at any point, it will also cost him 2 additional life. Actually, Bone Crusher Giant is really good if the main removal of your opponent is a Walking Ballista. Because that trade, like even if he was going to go after my Bone Crusher Giant with 3 counters on it, that would still be a very decent trade for me. So we're putting him down to 6, basically. And then we get him 1 more attack. Just need to draw a Snapcaster or a Collar Guns command and kill him. Cryptic command is also a very good draw. So attack, cryptic, bolt, bolt, attack, dead. Yeah, how does it feel to get punished? Sometimes Bone Crusher Giant feels weak, but it definitely does have its moments. Ah, come on. Another one. Alright, drawing that Cavern of Souls there, pretty lucky for my opponent. So I guess I'm gonna let this resolve, then bounce draw, because he cannot replay it this turn. Just to keep it off the battlefield for Bone Crusher Giant to get in another attack. And yeah, this is okay. This is fine. Could potentially still have a chalice here, which would of course be somewhat annoying. Yeah, it's a chalice. No, it's not a chalice. Interesting. Hmm. So I'm putting him down to 5. And with a Fulminator Mage, I think I'm gonna keep it around and not blow something up here, because if I draw a Snapcaster Mage, that's still lethal. And he's probably gonna have to block the Bone Crusher Giant with. Well, if this is a. All this does, then things change, of course. This motherfucker has more luck than he can imagine. Little motherfucking shithole. Alright, so what are we gonna kill? Eldrazi Temple at this point. We could, but I don't see why we would. I could go get rid of the Cavern of Souls, of course, as well. Now let's get rid of the Cavern. And Relic. Alright, need to draw a Snapcaster Mage right now. He's targeting himself. Okay, cool. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Because his Thought Seer will, of course, just take it away again. With one more mana, things would be different, but I think that's the only reasonable play I have here. I could, of course, also just bolt him, but doesn't seem grand as well. This way, at least, I have maintained all options. Alright, so there's just the Thought Seer in his hand right now. Nothing else. And if we were to draw a removal spell, then we probably get there. Fuck. Okay, I can live with that. So many good draws. I don't even know if he can attack here without having another blocker. I think I'm gonna let it resolve. Yeah, if he's going to attack, I'm going to take it. Because now I have Bolt as an out, I have Snapcaster Mage as an out, I have Cryptic Command as an out. Yeah. Also third Thought Not Seer in the top 15 cards. Sure. Come on. Milled over the two cards that I needed the most. Alright, we're probably gonna take another turn here. But that's it. And then, yeah, pretty much dependent on our top deck. And we have so many good outs. It's actually quite insane. Come on, give me just any good card. No, that's not one of them. Man, this is unlucky. This was definitely meant to be our game. Fuck. Alright. Alright, welcome to round number 5 here. Right. I did have quite a bit, like this is round number 1 of the next league, but I did have an issue with my audio last game. And despite winning it, I was not able to record it. And therefore, this is going to be the replacement. And Growth of the Burn Willows indicates that our opponent is playing a Living End deck here. And this is going to be okay. Yeah, I don't care about Season Pyromancer. So Living End has gotten a lot of upgrades through Ikoria, a lot of cheap creatures, dinos that came into the game. I think I'm gonna go with a basic mountain here. So knowing that my opponent's playing Living End, of course, I could have also just let the Jace live there. So if he's doing this, then this turn is definitely already the supposed to be the Living End turn. And he just wants to have the Season Pyromancer in the bit. Yeah, I thought so. This is of course not great, but it's also not super bad. Because I can handle the Street Wraith, and the next time he's gonna bring in something back. My tasker is also going to be back, and therefore I'm going to save the Terminate and bounce the Street Wraith. It's going to cost him a little bit of life. Maybe I'm not going to do it this turn though. Maybe I'm going to wait one turn and just bring in the Snapcaster Mage. To put him down to 10. Because with the Brazen Borrower, I should be able to race him as long as he doesn't have instant speed living end. Okay, down to 9. If I get rid of the Street Wraith and he's going to cycle it, he's going to be down to 7. I have to be a little bit careful, of course. I should have done that differently. Now, if I need to take my use my Terminate, I can't. That was actually not super smart of me. Archfiend of Ifnia, yeah. Exactly what I hope not to happen. Alright, Drownlow is actually pretty good. So we're gonna go with that. I'm gonna attack because I cannot stop my Snapcaster Mage from dying. I'm still gonna provoke it here. Because him cycling the Street Wraith, although my Snapcaster is going to die, still almost as good as the hit itself. But now he has quite a lot of creatures in the bin. I'm going to keep up the Drownlow here. I just want to be able to go with Brazen Borrower, if possible. He's got it. This is a motherfucking shithole of a card. Like, fuck you, Watsy. Don't give these things trample with cycle. Do I care about the rotting dinosaur? I don't think I can care about it. Hits harder, of course. Snapcaster is not bad. It's not super good either, but it's not bad. Alright, there's another living ant, which of course we're going to counter. Another Street Wraith, interesting. So he's gonna hit us for 7. I need to add something here. Otherwise, I'm just gonna play my Snapcaster Mage. Alright, so no cards in hand anymore. Let's Thought Scour ourselves. Probably in this way, though. Just in case I'm gonna draw a Terminate. That's not good. That's not good. That's not good. Alright. Alright, Cryptic Command is good indeed. Alright. Got that one. And now we got to be careful here. So Failed Push is not a good card to have. Cling to Dust is our only graveyard head here, and therefore probably something that we want to maintain. Counter Squall coming in. Thoughtseize coming in as well. I need to be as instant speedy as possible. Therefore, I'm not going to bring in the Fulminator Mages. And I think I'm going to, on the draw, I'm going to kick out the Jaces as well. And then the only card that I would consider here is Collective Fatality, mostly for the drain, other than anything else. But I think I'm just going to keep it this way. Alright. It's not great. Definitely, like if we're running into a Fulminator Mage, this hand's basically dead. But we have Disruption, we have Cling to Dust. Oh my goodness. Lord. Lord. Yeah, well. Turn 1, a Rotting Dinosaur. Difficult to beat. So I'm hoping that he's not discarding a creature here. That's actually really good for me. Because now I can Cling to Dust. Otherwise I could still Cling to Dust my own Polluted Delta. But due to Tasker, it's always preferable to not do that. And of course, due to Cling to Dust itself. I need to get with a Blood Crypt here, just to ensure that if we're drawing, in the unlikely event that we're drawing a Lightning Bolt plus a land, then I'm still able to kill it. There's Tasker. There's some land. So I guess I could go with Snapcaster block. Snap to the bin. I have to do like some crafty stuff here to get around that rotting dinosaur. Ricochet trap. So now, if I would be able to draw a fetch land here off the top, I could go with a Tasker, have 4 cards in graveyard, and have a Lightning Bolt up, which means I could actually kill this Rotten Regisaur, but this could be a Fulminator Mage. Oh yes, a Terminate. We're back in game, baby! And I'm going to do this before he has access to green again, due to Veil of Summer. I could of course also wait for the upkeep. Maybe I should have waited for the upkeep for him to discard. Yeah, I should have done that. That was... yeah. If this was what he had in hand still, then I definitely... that was definitely my bad there. But nonetheless, we're not dead yet. Not dead just yet. So I'm going to shock this. And play the Bone Crusher Giant. My opponent also only has one more card. One more Living End in his deck. Alright, so with drawing Demonic Dread there, he would have been able to do that anyhow. So it does not really matter. Well, still not correct of me. Well, maybe it still was. No, it wasn't. Because he would have, of course, had to discard the... oh, Summon Spirit God. Alright. So this gets more and more beatable. So this one... then one... well, actually... how good. Alright, back on track. Can we get this done? Alright, cool. Got there. So, yeah. Still a decent league. Not super great, but a decent league overall. I think the deck as it is has legs. And the only thing I might want to change going forward is actually the Cascade Bluffs. Throwing them out and potentially have access to a Mystic Sanctuary. But other than that, pretty happy with the deck. As I said, you can also just exchange the Logic Knot for Croxas. That's fine, or the Drown Loch, depending on what you prefer. As I said, the Massacre Worm is only a counter to Titan decks. And yeah, that's it for today. So what I'm going to do going forward is I'm always going to split between WotC Modern and Project Modern to showcase the differences. And as Project Modern is catching up with the current card pool, the decks are going to converge and therefore look more and more similar with each iteration. And yeah, then everybody can decide for himself what he likes to watch and which meta he enjoys more. So I hope you have a wonderful week and see you guys around.